Okay, so what am I learning? I am learning about integers. Why am I learning it? I need to be able to add integers in order to understand real-life topics such as temperature, altitude, money, scores, etc. How I know when I've learned it, when I can correctly solve mathematical equations and real-life word problems using positive and negative numbers. Anytime if you need to pause this video to fill in your blanks, feel free to do so. Trying to turn the slide. Next slide. There we go. All right, vocab words. Whole number is any of your counting numbers. So if I were to give you like M&Ms and you decided to count them, what numbers would you use to count them? Okay, you're going to use whole numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to infinity is a counting number. They are not decimals or fractions. And then we have integers. So what is this whole unit about? An integer is a positive or negative whole number and zero. So zero is not positive or negative, it's a neutral number. Opposites. Numbers that are the same distance from zero. One will be positive and one will be negative. Okay? Zero pairs are opposite, let me give you an example of opposite. So if I had positive 3, the opposite of positive 3 is going to be negative 3. If I have negative 80, the opposite of that is going to be positive 80. Zero pairs. They are opposites. When added together, they equal 0. So if I add my opposites of 3 and negative 3, I'm going to get 0. If I add my opposites of negative 80 and 80, I'm going to get 0. Okay? So again, if you need to fill this in, pause the video and get what you need. Real life examples of positive and negative numbers. So in terms of like temperature, anything above 0 is positive. Anything below 0 is negative. Okay? If you gain anything, money, cookies, anything that is given to you, that is a positive. A loss, so anything that is lost is a negative. So yards in a football game, again, money. Could stay on the money track and we could say deposit. Money that is deposited into your bank account is positive. A withdrawal of money is going to be negative. A credit to your account will be positive. A debit to your account, such as like using a debit card, is going to be negative. Okay? If the temperature rises, goes up, or increases, that's going to be positive. And then if it drops, goes down, or decreases, that's going to be a negative. And then the only example that you'll really see in math word problems will be above sea level or below sea level. So sea level is going to be like the ground. So anything up here is going to be above sea level. Anything below is going to be below sea level. Okay? So that's not the end-all be-all list, but it is a couple real-life examples that should help you out. So on this slide, we're going to determine whether the numbers are positive and negative based upon their statements. So we have a loss of $180. So it's going to be negative 180. A gain of 10 yards. That is going to be a positive. 200 feet below sea level. So that's going to be swimming down with the fishies. That is going to be negative 200. A withdrawal of 2,500 is going to be negative. A deposit into your bank account of 5,200 is positive. A drop in temperature is going to be negative. 16 degrees below zero is going to be negative. Let me use some words that we know here. If 8 miles means 8 miles due north, so if we're saying that north is positive, what means 5 miles due south? So that means what is south going to be? So south is going to be negative 5. Okay. All right. How do I add two positive integers? So we're going to think about this in terms of plus signs and minus signs. Yes, this is math that you've done since elementary school, but getting in the habit of using these plus signs is going to help us when things get a little bit more difficult. So, how do I add positive integers? So I have 5 plus 6. So how many positives do I have? I have 5 positives being added to 6 more positives. So when I add that together, I'm going to get a total of 11 positives. Okay? 3 plus 3. I have 3 positives. I'm adding 3 more positives. So 3 plus 3 we know is 6. 5 plus 2. I am adding 5 positives, adding 2 more positives, so I end up with 7 positives. 4 plus 5. I have 4 positives. I have 5 more positives being added, so I have a total of 9 positives. Okay, go ahead and take some time to do the you-dos. I do want you to draw out your positive signs to get the answers. You can pause the video and then come back to get the answers. Okay, welcome back. We got 1 plus 5. So we got 1 positive that's being added to 5 more positives. So I get a total of 6 positives. Next, I have 4 plus 7. 4 positives being added to 7 positives. If I add those together, I end up with 11 positives. 9 plus 3. 9 positives being added to 3 more positives gives me a total of 12 positives. Okay, so if you notice when we add a positive plus a positive, we're adding and keeping the sign. So your answer is going to be positive. And we could do the same thing with negatives. So we have negative 5 plus negative 2. So how many negatives do I have? I have 5 negatives being added to 2 more negatives. So I have a total of 7 negatives. 2 plus negative 3. I have 2 negatives being added to 3 more negatives. So I have a total of 5 negatives. 5 plus negative 4. I have 5 negatives being added to 4 negatives. So I have a total of 9 negatives. Negative 6 plus negative 1. I have 6 negatives being added to 1 negative, so I have a total of 7 negatives. We do -3 plus -4. We have 3 negatives being added to 4 negatives, so we have a total of 7 negatives. -6 plus -4. We have 6 negatives, and we have 4 more negatives being added, so we have a total of 10 negatives. -4 plus -3. We have 4 negatives being added to 3 negatives. We have a total of 7 negatives. Okay, go ahead and do the you do. Pause the video, and when you're ready to check your answers, we could hit play. All right, looking at your first problem, we have -7 plus -5. So we have 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 5 negatives being added to that. If we add them together, we end up with 12 negatives. -3 plus -7. We have 3 negatives. And we have 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To add together to get 10 negatives. We have -2 plus -6, so 2 negatives, plus 6 more negatives, add it together to get 8 negatives. So if you notice, if we're adding 2 negatives, we add the numbers, and then the answer is going to be a negative. So a negative plus a negative equals a negative. Okay. So when the numbers are small enough, it's fine to draw your positive and negative signs. But when the numbers get a little bit bigger, you're not going to want to draw that many positive and negative signs. So we're going to come up with a rule. So our rule for adding with same signs, a positive plus a positive is going to equal a positive. So if I have 2 positives, adding 3 more positives, my answer is +5. If I have 4 plus 6, 4 positives, plus 6 more positives, my answer is going to be +10. If I have 15 plus 10, I'm not going to draw 15 positive signs and then 10 more positive signs. So I'm just going to add and then keep my sign, which I know is going to be positive. Negative plus a negative, we know equals a negative. So if I have -2 plus -3, I have 2 negatives, adding 3 more negatives, I get a total of -5. -4 plus -6, I got 4 negatives, 6 more negatives, I have a total of 10 negatives. Again, not really wanting to draw 15 negatives and 10 negatives, so I know I can add them, and then it's a negative plus a negative, so my answer is going to be a -25.